I gritted my teeth and went to my daughter's preschool graduation ceremony. My daughter was in the embrace of the white moonlight, looking up and pouting. "Auntie Nian, can you be my mommy?" My husband was holding Nian's hand and smiling brightly, and the three of us were having a great time. He glanced at me with a pale face and suddenly lit up with disgust in his eyes. "Who allowed you to come here and embarrass us? Hurry up and get out of here." There were constant comments around me, and my daughter hurried to distance herself from me. "She's so ugly. She's not my mommy." Then, my daughter hugged beautiful Nian even tighter. My husband angrily kicked me out. And I, in disgust, left forever. I took a large box of painkillers and struggled to my feet despite my illness to go to kindergarten. With every step, I gasped for breath heavily. There was no time left. In the last moments of my life, I wanted to see my beloved little baby one more time. The graduation ceremony had not yet begun. My husband, Song Yicheng, was wiping sweat for Xinyan, a tenderness and consideration that I had never experienced before. My daughter was in Xinyan's arms, tilting her head to be cute. "I want Xinshin Auntie to hold me so that they will envy me for having a beautiful mother." "Xinshin Auntie, can you be my mother?" Xinyan smiled and kissed the cheek of little baby. "As long as little baby is happy, Auntie will be your mother." My husband pinched the cheek of little baby, his tone full of spoiling. "You are almost turning into a little pudgy one, only Xinshin Auntie doesn't mind you." Little baby turned her head and pouted, asking Xinyan to judge. The three of them were having a good time, laughing non-stop. I clutched the hem of my dress without going up to them. The reflection of myself in the glass was pale and yellow, the dress hanging loosely on my body. Even though I had applied a thick layer of powder, it was still difficult to hide my tiredness. The doctor had already issued a final warning: advanced pancreatic cancer. Today might be the last day of my life. My husband, who was smiling cheerfully, glanced at me out of the corner of his eye, and a sudden disgust flashed in his eyes. "Who allowed you to come here to embarrass yourself? Hurry up and get out of here." The parents who had heard the noise turned to look over frequently, and even the children couldn't help but say, "Who is this woman's mother? She is so ugly. She has been looking at Song Sisi, she must be her mother." My daughter's face turned. Song Yicheng saw that I was standing still in place, and his impatience had reached its peak. He pulled me out of the room, gritting his teeth. "With all the parents present today, do you really want to ruin Xiaobao's graduation ceremony and make her the laughingstock of everyone? The money I give you is wasted, always dressing like a dowdy housewife. Even a single strand of Xiao Zhao's hair is better than you. I really was blind to have married you." The force with which Song Yicheng was pulling me was so great that I stumbled and fell to the ground. The rough pebbles on the ground scratched my palm, hurting me. The veins on Song Yicheng's forehead were clearly visible, indicating that he was extremely angry. "What are you pretending to be weak again? Now even taking a few steps feels like it's taking your life." Xinyan held her daughter and ran over, whispering to her, "There are so many people watching. Even if it's for Shishi's sake, don't argue here. Auntie Nan Xiao, are you okay? Do you need me to help you up?" I shook my head and struggled to stand up on my own. The painkillers had lost their effect, and a sharp pain like a knife in my upper left abdomen made me almost unable to stand. Song Yicheng coldly snorted and took his daughter, holding Xinyan's arm and walking away. She always likes to pretend to be pitiful to gain sympathy. Don't bother her. If the person I married was you, I wouldn't dare imagine how happy I would be. Xin Yan put her arm around Song Yicheng's arm with bright smiles in her eyes. I will always be by your side and the child's side. Does it really matter if we get married or not? The 6-year-old daughter blinked her eyes and said happily, I want Auntie Nian to always be with me. I want her to be my mother. Her daughter's light-hearted comment tore my already broken heart. The daughter I had struggled to give birth to no longer. Song Gameching returned home alone. The house was rearranged by Xin Yan, and all traces of me were gone. Song Yicheng kneaded the swollen temple, dialed a friend's phone to get my treatment records. He still doesn't believe I was terminally ill when I died. He was desperate to find proof that my death was accidental. The doorbell rang and the delivery man delivered my pre-ordered birthday present. Today is Song Yicheng's birthday, also is my 29th birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. Song. If in the past, Song Yicheng will give me the gift intact pile in the utility room. But right now, he doesn't have to fight a dead man. The gift box opens to reveal a wedding ring and a USB stick. His wedding ring was thrown down the drain by Xin Yan. This one's mine. There's no point in keeping it. Song Yicheng micro, terrified for a moment, holding U-disc, looked depressed, went to the study. His feet were a little flabby, and one of his wobbles knocked over the bookshelf. A pair of ceramic bottles fell and broke to the ground. We made this together when we were in love. Song Yicheng, trembling, began to pick up the broken porcelain bottle. The bottom words are still intact. Song Yicheng loved Nanqiao all his life. It's a vow he carved himself. Maybe I really loved me in the past, but finally went round and round and returned the heart to the white moonlight. Memories come flooding back. Song Gameching fell on the ground, eyes red. He seemed to forget my appearance, slightly began to open the album turned for a long time. It's either deleted or cut. Except for the one with the mask and the daughter. Song Gameching, urgent, out of shape, peripheral glimpse of U-disc, eyes lit up with hope. There must be Nanzhou in the USB flash drive. His hand is shaking, out of shape, U-disc inserted for a long time without success. The bell rang suddenly. It was Xin Yan's phone. As soon as he pressed the answer, Xin Yan passed it out with a crying voice. Xiaobao fell off the swing and lost a lot of blood on the back of his head. My heart suddenly mentioned, the heart is very anxious. All I can think about is, something's happened to my baby. Song Yicheng even ran several red lights, hurriedly, panic, will be unconscious, daughter sent to the hospital. Hemostasis and rescue. 2 hours later, the doctor's face was sad. If the optimal treatment time is delayed, the child's life is saved, but it is very likely to become a vegetable. I was freezing and my heart was cramping. Xin Yan's face turned white, crying pear flowers with rain. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I didn't look after Xiaobao. No one saw it. Her eyes were filled with schadenfreude. She must have done this to Bao. She delayed her time on purpose. Why not? Song Gameching looked sad, but also good words to comfort cry into tears of Xin Yan. You did your best. Don't beat yourself up too much. I did not hit a place, raised my hand to blind Song Yicheng fan. I tried a million times, but I couldn't hurt him. Something happened to my little treasure. The only father she can rely on, actually the first time to appease the false white moonlight, rather than investigate the truth of wrestling. I'm not worth little treasure, not worth the love I used to give. Shin read full of guilt, day and night to take care of her daughter, everything by oneself. 3 days later, he was so tired that he almost fainted. Song Gameching, distressed unceasingly, asked a caregiver to take care of her daughter, forced the tired Shin Nian sent back. If you go on like this, your health will break down. You must go home and have a good sleep. 2 people pulled for a long time and finally took off, but also the ward, quiet. I stayed by my daughter's bed, telling her stories and singing songs. Even when she didn't respond, I held on, hoping that one day she would open her eyes. Half a month later, the daughter miraculously opened her eyes. Shocked, Song Gameching jumped up. Little Bao, you finally woke up and scared Daddy. The daughter moved her stiff body, and the first sentence was, Mother, I want to find my mother. Dad, I miss Mom, can you call her? Song Yicheng sighed, holding his daughter's shoulder, every word. Auntie Nian will be your mother in the future, don't you always like her? Her daughter's face changed, and she struggled and screamed. I don't want to be my mother, she pushed me, she doesn't like me at all. Song Gameching had a moment of silence, then straight face, education, daughter, not to nonsense. After you fell unconscious, your aunt blamed herself and took care of you day and night without sleep. In order for you to wake up early, 3 kneels and 9 knocks to the temple to ask for peace, knees are swollen. You'll make her sad if you've wronged her like this. The tears in the daughter's eyes rolled down and stamped her feet. I didn't blame her, she pushed me. I want my mother, I want my mother. Looking at my wailing daughter, my throat seemed to be choked by something, and my heart dipped into a dull pain. Song Yicheng lost patience and could not help shouting. Your mother is dead. It's gone. The daughter heard the words as if struck by lightning, sitting in place like a fragile porcelain doll. Song Yicheng knew that the words were too heavy, squatting in front of his daughter choked. Dad will always love you and Shin Mom will treat you as her own. Just then, the daughter shook her head wildly and jumped out of bed. She pushed Song Yicheng away and ran out barefoot, crying constantly. Dad lied. I heard Mom talking while I was unconscious. She must be waiting for me at home. Song Gameching, but crying daughter, took her home. As soon as the door opened, the groans of the women were accompanied by the growls of the men. Song Gameching face changed, hurriedly covered her daughter's ears, even coaxed to let her stand outside the door to play a game. Xiaobao counts from 1 to 100, and mother will appear. Convinced, the daughter stood upright against the wall and began to count earnestly. Song Gameching picked up a baseball bat to kick open the door. Shin Nian is a face of crimson by strange men under pressure, clothes lost to ground. She screamed and pulled the covers to hide herself. Usually Song Gameching to the hospital, a stay is all day, how come back suddenly today? Song Gameching eyes rage rose, picked up the stick to the dog men and women to swing. Shin Nian, you actually cheated on me. The strange man laughed, sidestepped, grabbed the baseball bat to lift the leg towards Song Gameching is a foot. Overreach. The man sat Song Yicheng under him and spat. Open your dog's eyes and see clearly that Laozi is Shin Nian's creditor. She owes more than 10 million in gambling, and she proposed to pay the debt with her body, 100,000 at a time. Laozi is doing good deeds. Covering in the quilt, Shin Nian cried out of breath. The man swears, gets dressed, and throws back the covers. Today this time can only count 50,000. Who told you to bad or bad Laozi's interest? The man threw a baseball bat to the ground and whistled as he marched out. 100. The child's voice sounded, and her daughter rushed into the living room. Dad, why didn't Mom show up? The voice of her daughter let Song Yiqing return to God. He snapped shut the door, not with good anger, shouted, "Put your clothes on." Xun Nian sobbed and dressed. She clenched her lower lip, her brain spinning fast how to explain this farce. I stood aside, my heart overflowing with joy. Yes. In the living room, the daughter's little face crumpled up, sobbing through tears. Dad, is Mom angry with me and hiding? Song Gameching tight lips, do not know how to answer. Xun Nian's surprised voice sounded. Is little treasure awake? Someday Aunt must go to the temple to make vows and kowtow to the Bodhisattva. The daughter avoided her outstretched hand, pursed her little mouth, and cried, "You wicked woman, don't pretend to love me in front of Daddy. When you pushed me off the swing, you said you wouldn't raise someone else's bitch." Xun Nian clenched his fingers, palm is full of dense nail prints. She opened her mouth to explain, but this time Song Gameching lost patience. The blue veins on his forehead were clear, and he grabbed Xun Nian vigorously and rushed towards the door. Go! You are not welcome here. The door closed, Xun Nian crying has not stopped. Song Gameching sitting in the corner against the door, is also holding his head and crying. His daughter shook his arm in a soft voice. Dad, can you call Mommy? I won't call her nagging or ugly anymore. I'll just listen to her. Song Gameching touched his daughter's head with red eyes and choked. Little Bao, Dad is not lying to you, Mom is really gone. Just then, a phone call from a friend came in. Nanzhou's treatment report has been sent to your email. Advanced pancreatic cancer with major depression. Bang! The phone falls to the ground. Song Gameching, even rolling and crawling to the study, ran a moment to open the computer. His whole body trembled and his face was written with panic. Hundreds of treatment reports, one doctor, one surgery, one chemo. Song Yiqing raised his hand and beat his head like crazy. He finally remembered that on graduation day, I wasn't being ugly on purpose, I was being devastated by the disease. The daughter was so scared that she burst into tears. Dad, what's wrong with you? Song Gameching's scarlet eyes, holding his daughter on his lap to appease. He took a deep breath and plugged in the USB flash drive. Inside is a short video I recorded of myself wearing light makeup and not too gaunt. Xiao Bao, Mom is leaving, you can finally have a new mom, are you happy? Song Yiqing, return the ring to you, you are free. The daughter kept shaking her head and frantically patting the computer screen. Mom, you come back, I don't want a new mom, I want you. One plea after another, crying people's hearts broken. I died, and my daughter finally began to love me. Song Yiqing repeatedly watched the video, tears rolling down. His lips faltered as if to say, Nanzhou, I was wrong. Late regret is cheaper than grass. I'll never forgive him. My daughter is always crying and asking me to come home. Song Gameching shut at home drunk, several days did not go to the company. He rummaged through all the birthday presents that had been buried in the closet for years and put them in the living room. There are watches he has been reading for a long time, everyone's paintings, couture suits, limited edition sneakers. But these thoughts were all turned to dust, like my ruined love. Song Yiqing smiled and cried at the gift, and cried and laughed, like a maniac. Nanzhou, won't you come back? Nanzhou, I miss you so much. I looked at the crying Song Gameching, but the heart is very calm. In the past, every night that I was abandoned, I was secretly sad at home and cried silently. Well, now the tables are turning. I sighed. Sonny Chang, why do you have to wait for me to die before you say you love me? As he finished speaking, he suddenly looked up at me. My heart beats like a drum. Can he hear me? The next second. He got up on the end table and staggered past me to the locker, digging around for something. Everything was thrown on the floor and the house was a mess. After about half an hour, he exclaims with joy, "Found it at last." It's a video backup of our wedding, and the original was destroyed. I looked at Sonny Ching in the video, and my eyes were full of love. He swore to love me for the rest of his life in front of a crowd of family and friends, and bowed his head and kissed me on the lips amid cheers. We really loved each other, and then we hated each other. The awakened daughter hugged my old clothes and opened the door. Her red and swollen eyes sat beside Sonny Chang, Rong Baba. Dad, I really miss my mom. Song Gameching shrugged his shoulders and then lifted his eyes, were already in tears. He took his daughter in his arms with endless regret and affection. Little treasure, Daddy misses Mommy too. She won't come to see us. Let's go and see her tomorrow. Daughter excited all night did not fall asleep. Day just Mengliang shook up Song Gameching. Father and daughter took care of the 2 pairs of mirrors for a long time, both wearing the clothes and shoes I sent. The car sped along and stopped in front of the medical school. Sonny Ching took the body donation agreement to ask one by one, and finally saw me become a general teacher. Soaked in formalin, skinny. No names, just numbers. Tears welled up in her daughter's eyes. She rushed to the glass case and slapped it hard. Mom, I've come to see you. Can you open your eyes and see little treasure? Mom, are you still angry with Xiaobao? Xiaobao is bad. It is Xiaobao that hurts your heart. Daughter hoarse cried drew Song Gameching grief. He painted a picture of me in his mind against the glass case. Nan Zhou, why are you so thin? I'm sorry, but I was stupid enough to believe that, and I broke my oath. The last sentence has been sobbing. But no matter how sorry and guilty he was, I couldn't wake up. The cries of the father and daughter attracted the attention of medical students, and some people were comforted with red eyes. Little friend, your mother has become a star, and she will watch you grow up happy in the sky. Anatomy class is about to start. We can't stay here long. Father and daughter were asked out. After that look, it's gonna be hard to say goodbye. 2 people 3 steps and a turn back, the daughter suddenly broke free of Sonny Ching's hand, step calf rushed to my body. She fell on her knees and banged her head 3 times. Dong, 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 the delicate forehead was instantly bright red. She said every word in a tearful voice. Mom, little treasure loves you forever. My chest felt like it had been hit with a hammer, and tears were falling silently. I want to hug my daughter and tell her that Mom is not angry, and Mom will always love Xiaobao. She did break my heart, but she was the flesh that fell from my body, and there is no overnight hatred. Song Gameching with tears bent down to pick up her daughter left. His back was fragile and decadent, as if he had aged 10 years overnight. Just out of the medical school, saw Nian guard beside the car. She was dressed in a white dress with tears. Song Game under the forehead tight, cold glance. Get out of the way! Nian quickly pulled the sleeve of Song Yicheng, humbly begging. Yicheng brother, I was forced, can you give me 10 minutes to explain? When a beautiful woman cries, I feel sorry for her. But now Song Gameching, only aversion to Nian. Always effective tears, but now let Song Gameching more upset. He growled and roared. Did someone hold a knife to your neck and force you to gamble, or did someone force you to sell? Nian, you are disgusting. Nian tears flow more fierce, she almost knelt down. Iching brother, do you forgive me this time? Without Nanzhou between us, are you willing to push me away? Song Yicheng waved away Nian's hand, cold tone. When you changed Nanzhou's medicine to vitamin pills, it was over between us. I was really blind at the time, so I saw the evil mind of you as a treasure. In the past, Song Yi blamed me for my evil mind, always trying to compete with Nian jealous. Now the evil man has turned into a white moon. He should have discovered the truth, but instead he chose to avoid and ignore it. Nian fell to the ground, his eyes darkened. She suddenly took her daughter's hand and smiled, ingratiating. Xiaobao, aren't you your favorite aunt? Tell your father that he only wants me to be your new mother. Aunt will hold you in the palm of her hand and buy you lots and lots of beautiful clothes and toys. Her daughter shook his head and pulled out his hand, looking at Nian, gradually crazy, afraid to hide behind Song Yicheng. She whispered back, "You're bad. You always taught me to say things that hurt my mother. I don't like you. I don't want any more of your gifts." Nian smiled stiffly on her face. She jumped up and down like a clown. There was a sudden sound of police sirens, and the police car stopped in front of him from far to near. The two policemen with a serious face presented the arrest warrant to the dumb-sided Nian. Nian, you are suspected of intentionally harming a child. Please come with us. Cold handcuffs, Nian desperately cried and struggled. Comrade police, you are mistaken, I am a legal citizen, how can I hurt children? There was a surveillance problem near the amusement park, and the data was only restored recently. It was Song Yi who called the police. After seeing the true face of Nian, he believed his daughter's identification. Nian is cruel to push down the little treasure of the swing. After hearing the police's reasons for arrest, Nian's face twisted. Isn't Song Cici standing here all right? How can you arrest me? To this day, she still does not repent. Song Gameching smell words angry three zhangs, he raised his hand, fan Nian heavy slap. You should be glad that Xiaobao is okay, otherwise I will fight this life to let you sentence to death. Song Game bearing disgust will touch Nian's hand on the clothes wiped. This took the small treasure sat in the car and went. From beginning to end, never look at Nian one more glance. 2 days later, Nian's verdict came out. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison for attempted assault. Hearing the news, I slowly spit out a turbid breath. Song Game cannot tolerate betrayal and deception. He hit the prison people take good care of Nian. Nian was bullied in prison, doing dirty work, living in toilets, eating bad food. Within a year, he was sick and haggard. During the period, she wrote several letters to Song Yicheng, begging him to go to prison to see her and spend money on her bail. Song Gameching was vexed, with her daughter moved home. He communicated with the medical school countless times about getting my body back. I'm willing to pay whatever it takes. I just want my wife to be buried. After I died, he finally acknowledged me as his wife. But in the end, they were coldly rejected by medical schools. Song Yicheng cannot, had to dig out my old clothes in the cemetery, set up a burial mound, tombstone photos from the wedding video cutout. He and his daughter would visit me every day, sometimes with a bouquet of roses, sometimes with my favorite snack. I follow every day, but my body is becoming transparent. This night, the daughter who had been asleep suddenly woke up. She held the photo of me and her in her arms, silently crying. Mom, can you come to my dream and see me? There's so much I want to say to you. The warm tears fell on the back of the hand, very hot. I leaned over and planted a kiss on my daughter's forehead. Little treasure, Mommy is leaving. Mommy loves you, and we'll be mother and daughter again in our next life. As for Sonny Chang, next life to be a stranger. Little treasure outside. After Mom left, Dad was in the dark for a few years. Later, after I was accidentally scalded by hot water, he took me in his arms with red eyes and apologized. Little treasure, I'm sorry. He cried and I cried too, and since then, my dad has returned to his normal life. Just not laughing anymore. On my 18th birthday, my father gave me a big party. I was wearing a dress he had made for me, giving speeches on stage and leaping across the dance floor. Dad rarely smiled. He took the glass to his mother's grave and sat alone until dawn. I heard him say, "Nan Xiao, my daughter is very beautiful, just like you were then." When I was 24, I had a boyfriend. Dad was so scared that he did a secret background check on his family. Finally, he took my hand and said, "Xiao Bao is a better judge of people than his mother. He's not a jerk like his father." Memories of childhood are fading, but I know I was a little jerk too. I think my mother nagging, scolded my mother ugly, clamoring to drive my mother out of the house. If I had known that one look would be my last, I should have held on to my mother. I don't know if Mom was mad at me before she died. When I was 25, my boyfriend and I got married. At the wedding, Dad cried his eyes out. But at the age of 50, his hair was already gray and his face was covered with wrinkles. He patted his boyfriend on the shoulder and said earnestly, "When you say it, you should hold it in your heart and live it for the rest of your life. I have given you my most precious treasure. If you don't love her, set her free and don't hurt her." I couldn't stop crying. I know. He always felt guilty about Mom. After the wedding, Dad left me to talk. He kept saying it for a long time. One was Xiao Bao, the other was Mother's name. "Dad, you're a little out of it." He leaned on the sofa, cradled the assembled ceramic bottle, and asked me, "Xiao Bao, Dad misses Mom so much, can you be alone?" The meaning of the words is self-evident. I held back my tears and nodded in amazement. Dad has been stuck in longing for too long, and every night has to be medicated to help him sleep. The corners of my father's mouth turned up slightly and he waved me away. The next morning, Dad died in front of Mom's tombstone. They clung to the ceramic bottle until they died, and the lettering on the bottom was rubbed yellow. Song Yicheng loved Nan Xiao all his life.